Hey there, and welcome to the Fiihr Factor, the podcast that shines a light on real stories, smart strategies, and the occasional hard truth about running a business. Think of this as your quick dose of clarity before your first cup of coffee. Let's go. Most business owners can tell you how much money is in the bank. Far fewer can tell you why that number is going up or down. Your bank balance is important, but it's not a business scorecard. It's a result. By the time the bank balance tells you there is a problem, the problem has usually been happening for weeks or months. You can't run your business like a checkbook. And I find it all the time. I ask business owners, hey, how's your business going? Good, I got money in the bank. That's not a plan. You need numbers that tell you what is happening inside the business while you still have time to do something about it. And a lot of business owners I know, they're just operating primarily on instinct. They know whether the phones feel busy. They know whether the team looks stressed. They know whether there seems to be work coming in. They know whether they feel personally optimistic or terrified that week. Feelings are important, but they're not measurements. A business cannot be managed effectively through vibes. Now, you don't need a 50-page dashboard with all these inputs. You don't need to spend every Monday morning studying massive spreadsheets until your eyes cross. You need a small set of numbers that explains how the business produces profit. So what I really want to talk about today are the 5 numbers that you can use to ensure that your pipeline is working and to ultimately get more sales. Okay, you ready for the 5 numbers? Leads, conversion rate, number of transactions, average dollar sale, and profit margin. Those are the 5. I'll say them again. Leads, conversion rate, number of transactions, average dollar sale, and profit margin. And those numbers work close together and they're multipliers. So think about this. Your leads times your conversion rate gives you your customers. Your customers multiplied by the number of times they buy and the average amount they spend gives you revenue. And revenue multiplied by your margin gives you profit. That's the engine. So when you know these numbers, you can stop saying we need more sales and start identifying the specific part of the sales and profit engine that needs attention. So let's dig in a little bit more here. So let's begin with leads. A lead is a real potential customer who has raised their hand and engaged in some way. They called, they filled out a form, they walked in, they referred. I love those. They requested a quote, they scheduled a consultation, etc. Maybe they responded to an offer. That's a lead. Website traffic isn't necessarily a lead. That's traffic. Social media followers, not leads. People who saw your logo, not leads. Could turn into a lead. But we got to clearly define what a lead is first. So how many leads are we getting? How many qualified opportunities entered the business this week? Where did they come from? What did they cost? Were they the kind of customers you actually want? So that's not only number of leads, it's the quality of leads that really, really counts. And without that information, marketing becomes a collection of random activities. I know half the advertising works. I don't know which half. Something that's been said for decades now. So first of all, how many leads do we have? And then are they real? Because we got to make sure they're real. And then what's their quality? That's the first quantification. So the second number is conversion rate. So we paid for these leads to come in. And of those leads that came in, how many actually became paying customers? So if you got 100 leads that came in and 20 became customers, your conversion rate is 20%. Very simple, right? This number helps separate a marketing problem from a sales problem. If you don't have enough qualified leads, you probably have a marketing problem or a visibility issue. If you have plenty of qualified leads, but very few become customers, you may have a sales process, a follow-up problem, an offer, a pricing, a trust, a unique value proposition problem, scripting problem, and those are different solutions. Now, a lot of times in big organizations, what always happens is marketing says we gave sales all these great quality leads, and sales says marketing leads suck. They're giving us crap leads. So that's something that happens, just FYI. So anyway, these two problems require different solutions: leads or conversion rate. A lot of businesses, I've seen this so many times, they want to keep generating more leads. But the real problem is they're wasting the leads that they already have. If we could just get the same amount of leads and increase the conversion rate, say from 20 to 25, that's 5 more deals done. Where can that go wrong? It can go wrong the way the phone is answered or not answered. It can be bad quoting, or it can be not good follow up. It can be scripting, and often is in the field. The salesperson that's selling and selling and selling and not asking questions and engaging the customers. It can be the way that we're positioning our product or service in the market in front of the customers. If we position that product with value and we present it with value, we can get a better rate. All of my customers are above average in their pricing. How do they do that? They set up the value of their product or service before they ever get to price. So for instance, I've got a painting company. My painting company goes in and they say, hey, look, let's figure out what are you trying to accomplish with this home? Because if you're just trying to flip it and get your cheap paint person, I'm not your person. We are not going to be the cheapest. We will be the best. And why is that? We stand behind our work so much that we're not leaving until we get a 5-star review, and we're going to give you a chip guarantee, etc. So that's positioning your product above the market and not just thinking about price. Because if you live on price, you die on price. And if you race to the bottom, you got no margin. So you make the customer understand the value. Or here's just another thing that happens: the salesperson or the business gets after one attempt, and they don't put the customer in their database, and they don't follow up. So more leads poured into a weak conversion process creates more waste, and your cost per sale is really high. So before you spend another dollar on marketing, know what percentage of your existing opportunities, your leads, become business. All right, so the third number of transactions. How often does the average customer buy from you during a specific period? For some businesses, that may be weekly or monthly. For others, the buying cycle is longer. You may monitor repeat purchases, renewals, maintenance agreements, add-on services, referrals. This number matters because it is usually easier and less expensive to generate additional business from an existing satisfied customer than to acquire a completely new customer. Many companies get that first sale and then they disappear from the customer's purview. There's no follow-up system. There's no reminder. There's no next recommended service. There's no renewal conversation. There's no customer nurture. There's no plan for staying relevant. And then the companies have to start every month from zero and wonder why revenue feels so inconsistent. I've got a lot of examples here too. Like, let's just take somebody that does, and this is a client too. They do kitchen cabinets, refacing, countertops. They do the whole kitchen. So they go into a kitchen, and if they're smart, while they're there, they would ask them, hey, look, how's your bathroom cabinets? How's your bathroom sink and tub? Do you guys know that we actually do full bathroom models as well? And the time might not be right now, but when we put that thing in their head and we follow up with them again and again, hey, you ready to get started on the bathroom? We know you love your kitchen. Let's go to the next step. It's not harassing people, but if you understand what the customer needs legitimately next, and you can create a relationship, a consistent relationship with them, and continue to follow up, then you're going to get more business, and you don't have to pay money to acquire that customer again. So instead of giving Google $200 or $300 or $400 for a lead, you got that lead. You already paid for that lead once. Why pay for it again? All right. So the fourth number is average dollar sale. When someone buys, how much do they spend on average? It's not about tricking customers into spending more. Think about somebody that's done this very well. McDonald's. You've heard the term. Do you want fries with that? How many millions or billions of dollars has McDonald's made off that one simple phrase? Packaging a soda and fries with a hamburger to get a higher average dollar sale. But you think about upselling and cross-selling. That's how we can get that average dollar sale up. Again, you paid for this lead. You've got this customer. Let's get this customer to spend more money in the right way for a solution that makes sense for them. So additional services that they may need, the right packaging. Have we solved part of the problem, or can we solve more of the problem? And then also think about pricing, because many of my clients, when they started with me, were pricing too low. And we were able to raise prices. For instance, I have some vets that I work with, and the first thing we did before I even became a customer is we raised an exam fee, and we raised it by $12. Exam fee, 63 to 75. And you know how many customers complained the next day about that? The next month? 0. So that right away gave them, well, covered my fee, which is great. So we are regularly evaluating pricing, because if we have established our value proposition with the customer and they see how much better we are, most customers are willing to pay a little more for a premium service that's positioned correctly. So here's something else to think about. Are your salespeople automatically going to the bottom and the least expensive option because they are uncomfortable discussing money? We got to check their scripting. We got to see how they interact with customers to know if, in fact, we're giving the customer the right solution for what they want. So we've done all the stuff we can do without even buying more leads. So before we buy more leads, we got to think about the conversion rate. We've got to think about the average dollar sale and how many times a customer comes in. It's so much easier to serve the current customers and work the price and the connection and the recurrence of that customer than it is to get a new customer. And a small improvement in average sale can produce more meaningful revenue without adding more leads or sales appointments or acquisition expense. So think about that. It's kind of mind-blowing. The company I used to work for, they sold cable subscriptions, let's call them. They would spend all this money trying to acquire these new customers with discounted rates that ended after a period of time, let's say a year. What happened after the year? The customer left and went to a different cable TV vendor. So then they had to buy more customers. So instead, if they would have just maybe not discounted the rate as much, but acquired the customer anyway and gave them a whole bunch of value, they could have kept the customer the whole time. All right. I want to talk about one other thing in here, because this is relevant to all of this. So if you think about the lifetime value of a customer, that can really influence how much lead acquisition costs you're willing to pay. So if we're going to buy more leads, how do we think about this? So if let's use veterinary clinic. Dogs, I love dogs. We actually have 5 at our house right now, admittedly. The veterinary clinic, though, they've got, if the average dog life is, let's just say, 10 years. I'm making it up. It's probably less than that, because big dogs don't live as long. It's very sad. And the average patient owner, dog owner, spends $1,000 a year. Over 10 years, that customer or that patient is worth $10,000. So if I have to pay for a lead for $200 and I convert 30% or a third of them, so that $600 investment it costs me to get a new patient, I would do that all day long for $10,000. Now, you don't get the $10,000 right away. So you got to make sure that you don't run out of cash, a whole nother subject. But you need to make sure that you scale appropriately, or you have cash available as you're doing customer acquisition. You also have to keep the customer. That's where the lifetime value of the customer is so important, and having a great customer experience. All right, the 5th number is profit margin. Not revenue, but margin. The most important thing. Gross without net is just gross. People want to brag about their great businesses and how much gross money they're bringing in, and that doesn't matter at all. It's all about the net. So how much of the revenue remains after the costs required to produce it? Yeah, that's something. Don't tell me about the top line. Tell me about the bottom line, because that's what we take to the bank. So a $2 million business with a 3% margin, for instance, I'll take a $1 million business with a 20% margin. You can grow revenue and lose profit if labor, materials, discounts, rework, acquisition costs, or overhead growth faster than sales. That's why the first numbers ultimately have to connect to margin. A lead source that produces a lot of low margin customers may not be a good lead source. So again, we're thinking about the value of the customer. Who's my ideal customer profile? Is my lead source generating that customer? A salesperson who closes every deal by discounting may have a higher conversion rate and still damage the company because the margin is too low. Worth thinking about. An additional transaction that requires excessive labor because they're not your ideal customer or the margins are thin, there's opportunity cost because number one, they're a pain in the butt. Number two, you're not hardly making any money and you could be actually serving one of your ideal customers. So revenue is activity, profit is what the business gets to keep, and it's just so important. So again, you think about your leads, your conversion rate, how many times the customer comes back, what are they spending, and then profit. The thing is, these are multipliers. So if I increase each one of these things by only 10%, so if I got 100 leads, I'm getting 110. If my conversion rate is 20, it's 22%. If my average sale is 200, it becomes 220, etc. 10% increase in each of those 5 numbers gives you a 61% increase in profit. Bottom line. Only 10%. That's an easy thing to do. If we go to 15%, we double our profit. Yeah, that's mind-blowing, right? It's just math, but it's multipliers. It's like compound interest. Those are the 5 numbers. Here is what makes these numbers powerful. You don't have to double any of them. Most owners hear a big growth goal and assume they need twice as many leads or twice as many customers. There's no magic campaign in that equation. No superstar salesperson, no one enormous customer that pray never leaves. It's a series of measured improvements across the business. Now, I want to be clear, the exact definitions and reporting periods will vary. A contractor, a dentist, manufacturer, professional service firm, restaurant, recurring revenue company, they won't calculate every number in the same way. It's not to force everything into an identical spreadsheet, but the point is to figure out the drivers of your business. So your weekly scorecard can be pretty simple. You record the target, the result, the difference between the two, the person that owns that, and the action being taken. The last part matters. A scorecard is not useful if everyone looks at a red number and says, that's interesting, and moves on. Numbers should lead to questions. Questions like, why did leads increase or decrease? Why did the conversion rate decline? Which lead source produced the strongest customers? Why did the average sale change? How do we change the average sale? What caused margin to move? What action will we take before the next meeting to get a different result? The purpose of the number is not to micromanage or punish anyone. It's to improve the quality of the conversion and the speed of the decision. Without numbers, team meetings become opinion contests. Sales, like I said earlier, sales said marketing is sending bad leads. Marketing says sales isn't following up. Operations says sales is promising things the company can't deliver. Sales says operations is giving bad service. Everybody's pointing fingers. But what is actually happening? The numbers can actually make the difference. So here's your assignment for this week. Write down your numbers for qualified leads, conversion rate, number of transactions, average dollar sale, profit margin. Use the best information you currently have. And if you don't have it, it's time to get it. And by the way, profit margin per job. It doesn't have to be perfect. Which numbers do we know with confidence? What number are we guessing at? And where can we get the biggest improvement? And then who owns it? What's one action we can test over the next week or two to tweak? We can improve all 5, but let's measure how we do it. More qualified leads, better leads, faster follow-up, better scripting. Can we increase our pricing? Is the margin something we can work on? I've done that with customers too by using different products, different sourcing. And then look at the numbers. It's not judgment. It's not judging. It's using good judgment to figure out the bottom line. You can't manage what you measure. You've heard that before. And you can't coach a team if nobody knows the score. Your employees shouldn't have to wait until the end of the year to find out whether the business is winning. And you sure shouldn't have to wait till the end of the year. The bank balance is a bank balance. So know the 5 numbers, review them consistently, give somebody ownership. Use them to make one better decision every week. And that is how predictable growth is built. Not through hope, not through guessing, not through feel. Understanding the business and the drivers and improving these areas by 10%, remember, gives you 61% increase in profit and 15% is 100% increase in profit. That is power and predictability and being able to sleep at night, knowing your business is growing. I'd love to work on these. And if you're working hard and you can't explain this and you're having trouble with this, go to myname.com, warrenfiihr.com, Warren, Fiihr. Take the free business assessment, schedule a conversation. Let's work on these numbers and let's grow your business. Your job is to start listening to the numbers and watching them growing and going. Let's go.